Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to be going through my Strong Story Kit from Ali Edwards and project planning in order to use up all of the product if I can. This is the first video in the Strong Story Kit or Story Kit Crush series, which is a challenge to you each month to pick a story kit out of your stash and work through using up as much of that kit during the month as possible. So in this video, you'll see me figure out what stories I'm actually going to tell throughout the course of the month using this kit. And in watching this video, I hope that it also helps you to come up with some additional ideas for different stories that you can tell with the Strong Story Kit as well. If you don't have this particular story kit, that's totally okay. You just grab out any kit that you have and work on using that kit throughout the course of the month. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into project planning for this kit. I will also mention that there is an unboxing video that Ali has on her blog, and I will make sure to link that down in the description box for you in case you want to see what all comes in the main kit and what are the add-ons and so on and so forth. So if you're looking for that, I'll put that down in the description box for you. All right, so let's go ahead and get to planning. I will put you on fast forward while I do this, and then once I have all of my stories ready to go, I will slow back down and we'll close out for today. All right, friends, let's get into the actual planning of projects with this kit. So the first thing I'm going to do here is pull over these 8 4x4 story cards and just kind of take a look at the different sentiments, see how I could get them configured on a page. These I felt like were going to be one of the harder things for me to use this month. So in my own way or fashion of planning projects, I went ahead and pulled those over here first. That is a lot of the times how I like to start my planning process, is to figure out what's going to be the hardest thing for me to use and to find a way to use that first. So what I decided to do was to try and configure, how could I get a bunch of those all in a 12 by 12 space? And I thought I could alternate them almost like a 2 by 2 pocket where I could alternate them with photos. So if you're looking for a way to use those cards, that would be a really great option. I also thought I could potentially pull a few of those and use them on the bottom of a 12 by 12 or up and down the side of a 12 by 12, giving me areas to journal. And then the other thing I was looking at were these hearts that are made from felt. So they're a stitched felt heart. And they are also roughly 4 inches by 4 inches. So those make a really nice complement to the 4x4 journaling cards. I picked out 2 of those along with sentiments that I thought would be really nice to tell 2 separate stories on 2 12 by 12 pages about each of my parents. So I have one set that would be to tell a story of my dad's strength, and then one set to help me tell the story of my mom's strength. So I really loved the way that the word strong, the plastic word, layered on top of that blue colored heart. And then I also have the journaling card that says strong mind and heart pulled out, thinking I could probably cut the heart into, or cut that out of the journaling card, put that on top of the felt heart, and then that could be the sentiment there. But then I thought, why not look through my plastic phrase pieces here and see if any of those would layer nicely on top of the heart. But because I want these to be sort of reminiscent of each other, I'm thinking about actually putting them side by side inside of my 12 by 12 story album. So I want them to be almost mirror images of each other, and therefore I wanted my title on the gray heart to be a little bit more substantial. And you'll see I'll make that decision here a little bit later. However, what I'm going to do first is just add all of this product onto a 12 by 12 planning sheet, and then we will actually get into the design work once I get through the rest of this month's kit. I also pulled out a 9 by 12 planning sheet that you can see there to the left and have added some of the plastic phrases on top of that. For now, I'm thinking about adding those plastic phrases as title pieces on journaling cards for Project Life. There are 7 of them total, which is really nice because that allows me to do 1 journaling card per day in the week as I am documenting in Project Life weekly. So that works pretty nicely for me. So once I had everything set aside that I was working on here, the next thing I tried to do was figure out what else I could do with these 4x4 journaling cards. I believe I have 2 of them left right now. Later, I actually pull out a couple more to add to that pile. And I just was trying to figure out, like, maybe I could layer them on top of each other and make some kind of flip element. I did see Allie do that in the story classroom. So if you want to see an additional idea on those 4x4 cards in creating flip ups, I definitely recommend checking out her video on the story classroom on her website, because that's not an idea that I end up going with. Once I have those ideas fairly certain and set aside, next I'm going to bring over the rest of my journaling cards, go through those, and figure out what stories they can help me tell. As I'm going through my cards like this, I like to keep a couple of things in mind. First of all are the sentiments that are on the cards themselves, because those often serve as story sparks for me. An example is the yellow card that you see in the middle that says strong looks like this. That's a really great jumping off point for telling a story of what, to me personally, does strength look like. And so I'm going to set that in its own pile as a story spark and see what other products can help me tell that same story, but also look aesthetically pleasing. I have a pile of cards next to that, to the left of it, that is a bunch of green sentiments. So another thing I do as I'm going through my cards like this is try to pair together the colors that go together. So for that one in particular, there is a card that says 1, 2, 3 with green circles. There's a larger green circle that says you are so very strong. And then there are a couple with these leafy wreath type greenery on it. Now, one of them has a cream tone background and all of the rest have white. So for now, I'm keeping them all together, but I'll decide later if I want to actually change that up. Then up at the top, I have another sentiment that I pulled out that immediately sparked a story. So that one is stronger together. And I wanted to tell a family resiliency story about my family growing up. So my parents and my sister and myself and my brother. And to talk about how we are stronger together, and to do that from a present day standpoint. So how are we stronger together when we are together today? I have a really cool design concept that I will come up with that, and I'll show you it a little bit later. But I do pair it with the striped rainbow card, which I put slightly under the stronger together and slightly under the teal cards as well, figuring I might want to use it for both. That's something I will do with my patterned cards more often than not, is I'll actually cut them up and split them in between different stories so I can get patterns onto a lot of my projects to help me break up the sentiments and the journaling cards. The set of cards that you see in the top right section that have, there's the teal card that says something along the story of, or something along the line of, a story of strength. There is the white card that's got literally the title that says A Story of Strength. I paired that with the yellow felt heart that I had remaining because I love the way that yellow and teal look together. And then I also added the plastic phrase there that has kind of a yellowish sort of text to it. I felt like all of those products went really well together. And those I'm hoping to help tell the story of my daughter's birth story, which I haven't had a chance to document. So I thought that this would be a great story kit to tell the story with. Once I have a lot of these cards sort of set aside into story piles, which you can see here, and there are a few more, but we'll go through those in more detail here in a second as well. Once I have all of the cards set aside, the next thing I do is go through my embellishments, or any of the embellishments that I have not already predetermined that go nicely with the different story concepts. I will take those and designate a story that I can add them to use them for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just to use as a piece of decoration. Sometimes it's to help me bring a certain color onto the opposite side of the page. So if I have a lot of green with a red accent, then maybe I want to add a little bit more red in another section as well, and that helps me with that. Sometimes I will add my embellishments to create journal points or bullet points for my journaling. which is exactly what I did with the pleather rainbow hearts that have an adhesive back on them. Those were an add-on to this story kit, but I immediately got them because I love having a repeated shape like that. And I absolutely love the idea of using them as journaling bullet points for the Stronger Together story. A lot of times when telling stories that are a little bit tougher, especially ones about resiliency, ones about strength, ones about, bravery, a lot of that comes with the opposite kind of feelings, feelings of fear, which then lead to being brave, or experiences of sadness, which then lead to stories of resilience. So when I'm working with a story like that, oftentimes what I will do is journal in bullet points to help me keep things more concise so that I'm not getting as emotional as maybe I don't want to be as emotional with that particular story, and so that helps me to keep it shorter. But then it also means that I don't have to go into great detail. I can just get down the parts of that story that I feel comfortable telling, and having those bullet points makes that a little bit easier. So that's one of my tips when it comes to journaling, especially stories like many of the ones that a kit like this could potentially bring out in your storytelling. So I have moved on from a lot of that. I am still kind of working on dividing out some of these stories. I ended up with one of these 4x4 journaling cards that I'm just still trying to figure out what to do with that card. I added it to a pile, and then we're going to go ahead and start getting everything pulled out and sketched. So for this first story, this one, I am jumping off of the title that says Strength Looks Like This. And what I want to do is to create a layout where I can pull pictures of myself or our family together, or something along those lines. And I'm thinking about going back to maybe the beginning of 2020 to do a story about this. I could even go further back than that. But just to show some images that represent strength in our family or in myself, and to create a collage with those photos that can then help tell this story. So I originally thought about maybe adding the journaling card to the bottom of a 6x12 or a 9x12, and then making the strength card as a pull-out section, and putting some of the other embellishments in a column. I didn't really like that very much. So then I thought about maybe making some kind of 12x12 collage page using the plastic phrases that I had originally put in my Project Life pile. But I also like that they could go onto a spread like this. I thought maybe making some of the sections a bit bigger or a bit smaller, like you see right here, where I can then add some chipboard embellishments and just making it almost like an art wall per se. So considering this 12x12 canvas to be an art wall where things are not necessarily in like a straight line with each other, they're kind of like offset and whatnot, and with some different shapes thrown in there. I still think that would be a really cool idea. But what I end up falling on is the idea of putting the journaling card in the very middle bottom of a 12x12 page, then taking that yellow heart, adding that into the direct middle of the 12x12, and then I want to fussy cut out one of the This Is Strong titles. So you can see it says This Is Strong, This Is. So I'm just going to use the top This Is Strong, fussy cut that out, and then adhere it on top of the yellow heart. From here, I'm considering putting in chipboard and still creating an art wall with this, but I will decide against that. Instead, I will go with something that is a little more structured and grid-like, because I just can't help myself. I love grids. So I'm going to use these 7 titles for 7 different photos. So most of them on the sides there are going to be 3x4. So I'll have 3 3x4 photos down the 2 sides of the spread, and then in the upper middle I'll put a 6x4 photo. So that way it has a very grid structure with the heart in the middle, which does help to break up all of those square lines or straight straight lines that make up the squares of the grid. So we're going to go ahead, get this sketched out on the page so you can see a little bit better what that might look like. I'll use the journaling card to actually add my journaling, and I'll likely type that up on the computer so I have more room for text, since that's going to be the only place I'm adding in my storytelling for this project. And then, like I said before, we'll do the 6x4 photo in the top middle, and then down on the sides, we'll do 3 3x4 photos to help fill in the rest of the space. And then that will be this spread. I think this one will be a fun one to put together. Oh, and then I decided to put those plastic phrases at the bottom of the sticker, or at the bottom of the photos. Although I may change that and put them at the top, just depending on the orientation and the subject matter inside of my photo. So where everything lies. I'm going to show you how I store my story projects for this one. So this one, I have a 13 by 13 envelope, plastic envelope from scrapbook.com. I threw everything in there, and that's essentially what I'm going to do for every story moving forward. Some are going to go into smaller envelopes just depending on the size of the project, but I am going to skip over that for all the rest of the stories, since you don't necessarily need to see me add the product into a pocket, but that is where they're all going to go, is inside of a quote-unquote project pocket. So next we're going to look at the story here for my parents, and I'm just going to sketch them both on the same page and put both of, or all of the product into a one of those larger envelopes. So what I'm thinking of doing is taking 2 instead of 3 of those 4x4 cards and adding them at the top and the bottom of a, the far, one of them on the far left and one of them on the far right, so it becomes a column. Then I can add the heart, the felt heart, into the middle of those 2 cards, creating a title. And I can add my journaling either by hand, or I can type it up and print it directly onto the cards. And that I will put onto those 4x4s themselves. Then I'm going to print large photos. Most likely these are going to be roughly 6x12. They might be a little bit bigger than 6x12. We're going to see maybe 7x12. And then I'm going to use a pattern card to create a strip of color pattern in between the photo and then the section where all of the journaling and the title is. I like to do that because it helps to create a visual break in the page between the photo and the text, which then helps everything to feel a little bit more balanced, or at least it feels balanced to me. On my actual sketch here, you can see that I put the 2 journaling cards in the middle of the full double page layout. So it's like a photo and then the journaling, photo. As I was looking at this on my sketch, I think I would like it better if the photos were next to each other instead of the journaling cards. So when I actually go to put these into the pockets, I may decide to switch that up. We'll see. For this spread in particular, it is going to be a 12x12. There is nothing on it that is necessarily interactive, so I am going to be able to just put it into a 12x12 page protector and call that a day. Sometimes I will do a 12x12 page that has something interactive with it. When that happens, I create my own like hole punched plastic pieces that I attach to the back side of my 12x12 spread, and then I can hole punch those and put those into my ring binder, and then I will just adhere 2 pages like that back to back. So in case you're ever wondering, what do I do when the page opens or something moves, that's generally what I do. And I don't think I have any, actually I will have one a little bit later that has an interactive bit to it. So for that one, that's what I will do, is add a strip of clear acetate to the back that's maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch outside of the page itself, and then that can be hole punched. So this is going to show you how this is going to look once I get that pattern on there. I decided to use the rainbow stripe pattern. I cut those into 1/2 inch strips, which means that I have used 2 of the 4 inches in height of that card. So I still have a piece left that is 2 inches, I believe, by 6 inches wide. So the nice thing about planning my spreads in this way is it lets me stretch my stash or stretch my kit just a little bit more. If I did not have this planned out beforehand, who knows, I might have used that entire striped card on one project. But by using it this way, I believe I'm able to get it onto 3 or 4 different projects, which is amazing and lets me use like literally every inch of it. This next one I am going to use, I title it I Am Strong and Brave, but then I actually don't even use that card. Instead, I'm going to use the Be Fearless card along with the Messy Circle, strong hope, strong passion, strong body, blah, 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 and the little chipboard piece that says strong heart. Those 3 pieces I'm going to use to write a letter to my daughter. With every story kit, I like to tell at least one story to go inside of my daughter's 6x8 story album, and one story to go inside of my son's 6x8 story album. That's generally one of the quote unquote rules that I give myself when I am working through this product. So for that story, as you saw me draw it there, I'm planning to fussy cut out the messy circles, add those on top of a full page photo, and then pair that with a larger, maybe about 4-inch wide piece of journaling that is a letter to her about how I hope that she can go through life being fearless. For this project here, I want to use the product that you see to help me tell the story about Izzy's birth. So this will either go inside of her album or in my family story album. I want to use the 4x6 card there at the bottom. I'll probably trim it down and then have that plus the rainbow pattern just at the top, and then a photo on top of that. And then I'll pair that with a page protector that's got 2 of the 3x8 sections, one for an additional photo and then one for the actual story itself. Next, we are moving on to a story that I will put inside of my niece's story album. So this is a recent addition to the 2 kids stories per kit rule, quote unquote rule. So I also like to try and pull out some product to help tell a story about my niece. My niece just turned 9 months old. Yes, that is right, 9 months old. And I have committed to putting together a baby album for her that documents her first 12 months of life. So generally what I do is pick out a couple of stories that I can tell for each of those different months. I have my sister-in-law write up some journaling, send me some photos, and then I create a spread to go inside of her album. For that one, I thought it would just be fun to tell a story of her strength and whatever that means to my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law. Moving on, this is the story that will go inside of my 12x12 story album, but it is not actually going to be sized 12x12. It's going to be a 6x12. No, is it a 6 by? Yes, a 6x12. Yes. So for this one, what I'm going to do is put the Stronger Together title up at the top, a little bit more of that rainbow pattern underneath, and then I'm going to use the 8 rainbow hearts to create my actual journaling bullet points. This is one where I want to tell some family resilience stories about my family, so my parents and my siblings. And then what I'm thinking of doing is creating a flip element at the top of the Stronger Together card where you can flip up the card and reveal a photo underneath. So mostly this, at a glance, this will look like it is just text until you flip up that portion, and then you'll be able to see the photo underneath. That is the first project that I have ever created or designed in a 6x12 size. So I'm really excited to give that a try. And a little bit later, I will actually design a 9x12 spread as well. I am really enjoying changing up my sizing and just basing my sizing on the products and the story and the amount of space that I want to tell the story, and just, letting my creativity where the sky's the limit, essentially. So for the story I've got here in front of me, this one, I really loved the combination of all these different greens. I love those leafy green, wreath pieces on the 4x6 card. And I also love the journaling at the bottom with the 1, 2, 3. I think it says documenting this. So it's just very generic. I'm going to pair this with the 3x4 card that has the circle on it saying you are so very strong. I'm just trying to figure out a configuration that I like for this spread. What I am thinking of telling the story about for this one is another story about me, but me as a kid. When I was very, very young, I was extremely sickly. I still to this day have chronic asthma, but as a child, it was triggered or it flared up a lot more than it does now. So I spent a lot of my childhood in hospitals and, eventually got a breathing machine that I had at home and all kinds of stuff. So I want to tell the story about that, about what it was like to be sick all the time and memories that I have from being in the hospital. I was very young, so I don't have a ton of memories from that time, but I do believe that all of those visits in the hospital were what made me terrified of shots for so long. I'm not anymore, but for a long time as an older child, I was not very keen to get shots, and we think that that's probably why. So I just think that this is a really awesome opportunity to tell a childhood story. And that's also something that I highly recommend with looking through these story kits what are stories that you can tell about right now about you? What are stories that you can tell about the other people in your life who matter a lot to you? What stories can you tell about your upbringing, your childhood, your past? Because I think that those stories are so worth telling, and oftentimes they get skipped. So let this be an encouragement to you to think back to when you were young and see if there are any stories of strength or from the period of time in your life when you were a child. Really quick, the idea I came up with for that particular spread was to take those wreaths and fussy cut them out to create flip-up elements, have that rest outside of a page protector, and then use the bullet journaling on the bottom to do my journaling for each of the 3 photos that will flip out from the wreaths. That's likely going to be in a process video at some point, so you'll see more about how that works later. And then once I had that one sketched out, I have a couple of piles of product left over here that I just really didn't have a very solidified idea for what story I wanted to tell or how to use this product to design some kind of spread. So I'm going to just kind of stare at it for a while, move it around, try some different combinations of products out, look again at the sentiments. I have a list that is not here on my screen. It's like next to me on my rolling cart that just had some jotted down ideas for strength stories, a lot of which I got sparked from either the Strong Story Classroom. Allie does an intro video where she talks about, 7-ish different ideas for telling stories with this theme. And then I also tuned into the story chat that was on the Allie Edwards Instagram Live or Instagram TV, IGTV account, and got some ideas from there as well. So I am referencing my idea list, seeing what stories I haven't yet figured out how to tell, and if there was anything missing. So the first one that I come up with is a story about my Strengths Finder results. Lately, the Allie Edwards creative team has been chatting back and forth about personality tests because we're all kind of into those. I think sometimes personality tests go hand in hand with storytelling because, or people who enjoy memory keeping and storytelling because they help to tell pieces of our story and give us language for the ways that we are. And I do believe that personalities change and that personality tests are not infallible, but I really love them. I have a degree in psychology, so that kind of stuff is just right up my alley. So what I'm deciding to do with this spread is I'm going to create a traveler's notebook spread to talk about my Strength Finders results. So that gives you your top 5 strengths. And I thought it was very interesting, my results, and definitely me to a T. There are so many different strengths, and you can take a test to find out even more than your top 5. But I just wanted to do the top 5 for this one. So I'm just going to create a pocket that I can slip in some tags that talk about my strengths, kind of like Morgan Beal's spread that she did about her Strength Finders results. So I'm going to scrap lift her a little bit on that one. Next, I am going to design a page to go into my pocket page notebook. A pocket page notebook is different from a traveler's notebook because it has a plastic pocket that goes in between every white page. So there's like a double page of white paper, like a normal traveler's notebook, but then there's a plastic pocket in between them. So in that album, I generally tell more personal stories. So for this one, I'm going to use the I Am Strong and Brave journaling card, most likely as just a decorative card. I may turn it into a flip up and add more journaling or photos underneath. I haven't totally decided yet. Then I want to create a pocket that I can add in one oversized large tag. And then I want to stamp using the story stamp the sentiment that says I am strong, and then use that for a little bit of journaling, stamp it again, more journaling, stamp it again, more journaling, to give myself a little bit of some blurbs about myself and what I see in myself as being strong. So I think I love the story concept of pointing out your own strengths to yourself, like almost like a letter to yourself. And I think that can be so beneficial for us as individuals to do that for ourselves. So moving on to the last bit of product here, I have 2 remaining 4x4 cards, and then I have 3 remaining plastic pieces. I also have 2 more circle chipboards. Those are going to find themselves or find their way into the 2 12x12 spreads that I did about my parents. So one will go for my dad, one will go for my mom. For the 2 remaining 4x4s that I have here, I have Keep Going and Powerful, and then just a bunch of, strength on the other side, or, strength gets you through, or whatever types of sentiments with the plastic pieces. So what I thought I could do with this is to create a 9x12 canvas. So that way I can have those cards at the bottom, but I wanted a more substantial picture so that I could add all 3 of those plastic pieces on top of the photo. If I had used a because if I wanted it to be 6x8, then that would have left me with 4 inches, and then the plastic pieces would have been too much for it. So instead, I'm going to make this 9x12, and I'm going to use this product to talk about coming out of COVID. So emerging out of what has been this pandemic and COVID and way of life for the last year plus. And how, we are still staying strong. We're still keeping going with staying safe and responsible, and how powerful it is when we all work together. Then I've got this last pocket here that's going to be all of the product I will use for a Project Life spread. Just showing it all to you here. I'm going to stick that all in a pocket, and then that is going to be all of my story planning for today. All right, you guys, so that completes my planning process for today. Out of this one story kit, I was able to come up with 10 different story ideas in addition to a week of Project Life. I am really excited to dive in and find some photos and write some stories about the places and the people, including myself, that I see strength in. I think that this is just such a great topic for telling stories this month. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and have felt inspired to tell some of your stories as well, whether that's in the story idea or the layout concept. That is always my hope in sharing these videos, is that it inspires you to tell some stories too. If you would like a closer up look at each of the individual stories, I do share that in a blog post over on my Patreon, which you can find a link to down in the description box below. On Patreon, you always get the Story Kit Crush content a month early, in addition to planning processes for other companies as well, like Paper Person and Colorcast Designs, and then tons of other content that will just help to inspire you to tell more of your stories. So if you're interested in checking out what I have to offer there, make sure to grab that link from down below. All right, friends, well, I am going to have a process video come out today for Strong Story Kit Crush. I will either be putting together 1 or 2 spreads. I haven't quite decided yet. So be sure to check that one out as well. And then if you are sharing any of your Story Kit Crush projects this week, make sure to tag me or use the hashtag Story Kit Crush on Instagram so I can be sure to read them, see them, and share them on my page as well. Okay, friends, well, until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.